Hey Gen Z, what your millennial coworkers? No, you don't. Hey Gen Zers, we know you're tech-savvy, creative, and ready to change the world. But have you ever sent a meme-filled email to a C-suite exec and gotten radio silence? These oops moments point to a real challenge. A 2024 LinkedIn report found nearly a third of Gen Z have faced career setbacks from a lack of professional soft skills. Here's the secret: your millennial colleagues are veterans of the 2008 recession. They entered a brutal job market and developed a battle-tested playbook. Today, we're decoding 5 golden rules from that playbook, lessons you won't find in a textbook but are critical for leveling up your career. If you want to become the most resilient and professional version of your Gen Z self, don't miss this. Hit subscribe on GENSHIFT for more exclusive career cheat codes. Lesson 1. The art of the long game, embracing career patience. Our first lesson is about patience. And no, I don't mean passively waiting for a promotion to fall into your lap. I'm talking about adopting the Millennial Marathon Mindset. This isn't about being slow, it's about being strategic. This mindset was forged in the economic fire of the post-2008 world, a time when instant success was a fantasy. For millennials, just having a job was the prize, and climbing the ladder was a slow, deliberate grind. This is a tough pill to swallow for a generation where 70% expect a promotion within their first 18 months. But understanding this long game strategy is your best defense against career burnout and disillusionment. Let's look at the why. A working paper from Equitable Growth analyzing the Great Recession's aftermath found that millennials who entered that job market lost a staggering 13% in cumulative earnings over the next decade compared to other generations. They had no choice but to be patient. They were playing catch-up from day one. This experience hardwired them to see careers as a long-term investment. Now contrast that with the current landscape. A 2024 Pew Research Center report reveals a potential disconnect. For those aged 18 to 29, only 28% view their current job as a career. A larger group, 35%, see it as just a job to get them by, and a full third of this age group admits to doing only what's expected of them at work. This short-term view can clash with building an impactful long-term career. Consider the story of Alex, a fictional millennial who graduated with a top degree in 2009 right into the economic abyss. The only job he could land was a low-paying admin role at a large corporation. His friends told him he was overqualified and should quit. But Alex saw an opportunity. For 2 years, he treated his job like an intelligence-gathering mission. He mastered every arcane administrative process, learned the names of every key player's assistant, and built a mental map of how the company actually worked. When a coveted project manager position finally opened up, dozens of candidates with shiny resumes applied. But Alex was the only one who could walk into the interview and explain precisely why the department's current workflow was inefficient and how he would fix it. He got the job not because he waited, but because he used the waiting period to accumulate invaluable strategic knowledge. So here's your actionable advice, the one-year mission technique. For the first year in any new role, don't just focus on your title or the next promotion. Your primary goal is to become an organizational spy. Your mission is to create a mental dossier on the business. Who holds the real power? What problems does your boss complain about most? Which department always gets its budget approved? This isn't cynical, it's smart. You're transforming your job from a simple transaction into a strategic investment of time for capital, the political and operational capital that allows you to make giant leaps later. Lesson 2. Mastering the code switch, the art of professional communication. Lesson number 2 is a workplace superpower: becoming conversationally multilingual. I'm talking about the art of code switching. Millennials are the ultimate bridge generation. They grew up sending cryptic aim-away messages and learning text speak, but they were forced to learn how to write formal multi-paragraph emails to their baby boomer bosses. They literally had to invent the modern workplace communication playbook on the fly. For Gen Z, whose communication style is often perceived as brilliantly authentic, but sometimes too casual for a corporate setting, mastering this skill is the fastest way to build credibility and influence. The data paints a clear picture of a communication chasm. A recent Forbes analysis highlighted a SHRM study noting that older generations prefer formal meetings and phone calls, while younger generations, no surprise, favor instant messaging. In fact, research shows that 49% of Gen Z employees prefer using IM platforms like Slack or Teams for work communication. This preference, however, can create a perception gap. In a 2024 survey from Abode HR hiring managers reported that Gen Z candidates often fall short in professionalism, with 39% citing poor communication skills as a key issue. This isn't a critique of your character, but a mismatch in communication styles with real-world consequences. Imagine this scenario. A Gen Z employee, Chloe, slacks her millennial manager, Ben. Yo, Ben, got a sec, that client report is kind of cringe, need to fix it ASAP. Now Ben gets it. He knows what cringe means, but he also knows the client, a 55-year-old executive, will be on the next call. So he code switches in his mentorship. He replies, "Hey, Chloe, good catch. Can you draft a quick email to me summarizing the key issues for the client call? Let's frame them as opportunities for enhancement. I'll back you up." In that one exchange, Ben didn't just manage a task. He taught a critical lesson in professional translation, protecting Chloe while helping her learn the corporate language. This is the code switch in action. Here's how you can master this yourself. Use the communication dial metaphor. Before you write or speak, visualize a dial with settings from 1 to 10. Level 1 is meme level casual, reserved for your closest work friends. Level 10 is board of directors formal, for high-stakes official communication. Before you hit send, consciously ask yourself 2 questions. Who is my audience and what is the context? Then set your dial. A Slack message to your team about lunch, that's a 3 or 4. An email to your boss's boss about a project update, that's an 8 or 9. Presenting to a new client, crank it to 10. This isn't about being fake or losing your authenticity, a core value for your generation. It's about demonstrating emotional intelligence. It shows you're smart enough to understand the rules of the game before you try to change them. And paradoxically, that's what gives you the credibility to eventually rewrite those rules yourself. Lesson 3, developing feedback armor. How to absorb criticism without cracking. All right, let's talk about feedback. This lesson is about forging what I call feedback armor. It's not about becoming emotionless, it's about building emotional resilience. Millennials were thrown into a hyper-competitive post-recession workforce where feedback was often blunt, direct, and delivered without a spoonful of sugar. They learned out of necessity to separate the critique of the work from any judgment of their worth. For Gen Z, who rightfully expect more empathetic leadership but are sometimes perceived as overly sensitive to criticism, learning to depersonalize feedback is the key to unlocking its power as a tool for rapid growth. The data reveals a fascinating disconnect. On one hand, a 2024 Gallup poll shows an 8 percentage point positive swing in Gen Z, employees feeling they receive meaningful feedback. You want feedback, and you're getting more of it. Yet studies from organizations like SHRM consistently find that intergenerational conflict is rampant, with 65% of employees witnessing it, often stemming from mismatched feedback and communication styles. The issue isn't the desire for feedback, it's the processing. Emotional static can garble the message. Let's look at a mini case study. Leo, a talented Gen Z designer, pours his heart into a new campaign concept. He presents it to his millennial lead, Maya. She says, "The core idea is strong, Leo, but the execution on slides 3 and 5 is unclear and doesn't align with the client's brief. We need to rework it." Leo hears, "You failed. Your work isn't good enough." He feels personally attacked and shuts down for the rest of the day. Later, Maya pulls him aside. She shares a story about her first boss who once publicly called her work amateurish in front of the whole team. She explains that the experience, while brutal, taught her the most valuable lesson of her career: how to separate herself from her work. She tells Leo, "The feedback is about the pixels, not the person. Let's level up these slides together." By sharing her own vulnerability, she helps Leo reframe the criticism not as an attack, but as a strategy session. Here's your actionable technique: depersonalize and extract. The next time you receive tough feedback, perform this immediate 2-step mental exercise. First, depersonalize silently. Tell yourself, this feedback is about the task, not about me as a person. It is data, not a judgment. Second, extract. Ask one simple question either to yourself or to your manager. What is the single most important action I can take from this feedback to improve the work? This simple process transforms a potentially emotional and painful event into a purely tactical and productive one. It allows you to absorb the lesson without absorbing the sting, building your armor one piece at a time. Speaking of learning from others, what's the best lesson a millennial colleague has taught you? Drop your story in the comments below, and if you're getting value, make sure you're subscribed to GENSHIFT so you don't miss our next episode. Lesson 4. Networking beyond the screen, turning digital connections into real-world capital. This lesson is about evolving from a digital collector to a strategic connector. Gen Z, you are undisputed masters of building vast digital networks, but your millennial colleagues learned a hard lesson in a cutthroat job market. One real trusted relationship is worth more than 1,000 LinkedIn connections. The goal isn't to stop collecting, but to convert that digital Rolodex into real-world social capital. The data reveals a stunning paradox. According to LinkedIn, Gen Z is networking more than any other generation, making an incredible 28.7% more monthly connections than millennials. You are connection machines. But here's the twist. Research from Freeman and the Harris poll shows that Gen Z deeply craves in-person connection. A whopping 91% of you view live events as one of the best ways to build interpersonal skills, and other studies show that 84% of Gen Z actually prefer direct face-to-face interactions for important conversations. This gap between digital habits and human needs is where the millennial approach becomes so valuable. Let's tell the story of Sam, a Gen Z job seeker with over 5,000 LinkedIn connections. He finds his dream job opening and mass messages 100 contacts at the company with a generic, "Hi, I'm applying for X, can you help?" He gets 0 replies. He's frustrated. He goes to his millennial mentor, Priya, who has a modest 500 connections. Priya scans her network, identifies 3 people she actually knows at the company, and sends each one a personalized message. To one, she writes, "Hey, Mark, hope you're well. Remember that crazy project back in 2018? A sharp young person I'm mentoring, Sam, is applying for a role on your team. He's incredibly bright. Would you be open to a quick chat with him?" Sam gets an interview request within 48 hours. The lesson is clear. A targeted, warm network built on real relationships always outperforms a large, cold one. So here is your actionable strategy, the 5-3-1 networking rule. To turn your passive network into an active one, do this every single week. First, identify 5 interesting people in your existing network you'd like to know better. Second, engage with 3 of them in a low-stakes, non-transactional way, like their post with a thoughtful comment or share an article they wrote. Finally, send 1 personalized message to someone new asking for a brief 15-minute virtual coffee. The key is your ask, "I'm really inspired by your career journey and would love to learn more about your experience," not, "Can you get me a job?" This approach is rooted in a truth millennials learned the hard way: trust is the most valuable currency. No one would risk their reputation by recommending a stranger. They had to build genuine connections over time. For a generation used to transactional, algorithm-driven relationships, this trust-first approach is a game changer. It's the key to unlocking the true power of your massive digital network, and more importantly, satisfying that deep-seated need for genuine human connection. Lesson 5. The Pragmatic Idealist, balancing purpose with reality. Our final lesson is perhaps the most profound learning: to be a pragmatic idealist. It's about changing the system from within without burning out. Millennials entered the workforce as idealists, hit the brick wall of corporate reality, and learned the art of incremental change. Gen Z is by all measures the most purpose-driven generation in history. But this passion can quickly lead to disillusionment when a company inevitably falls short of perfection. This lesson is your guide to avoiding purpose burnout and making a real lasting impact. The data shows just how much purpose matters to you. A 2025 Deloitte survey found that nearly 9 in 10 Gen Zs, 89%, and millennials, 92%, consider purpose crucial to their job satisfaction. You're willing to put your money where your mouth is too. Half of Gen Z, 50%, have rejected assignments that clashed with their personal ethics. But here's the reality check. Pew Research found that only 43% of workers aged 18, 29 are highly satisfied with their jobs, and Gallup data consistently shows low engagement among younger workers. This chasm between high ideals and messy reality is a major source of frustration. Picture this: Jordan, a Gen Z employee passionate about sustainability, discovers his new company isn't fully carbon neutral. He's horrified and drafts his resignation letter. He vents to his millennial manager, Maria. Maria smiles knowingly. She tells him about her first job where she tried to get the company to divest its entire pension fund from fossil fuels. She failed spectacularly, but she learned something. She tells Jordan, "Don't try to boil the ocean. You'll just get burned. Start smaller. Start a green team. Your first and only goal for the next 3 months, get dedicated recycling bins on every single floor. It's a small, visible win. It builds momentum, and it shows leadership. You're a serious problem solver, not just a loud protester." Jordan stays. He starts the green team. He gets the bins. And 6 months later, he's presenting a bigger proposal to the COO with Maria's full support. This brings us to your actionable model, the sphere of influence. When you want to create change, map your battlefield. First, there's your inner circle, your own work, your attitude, your immediate tasks. You have direct control here. Make your own processes more sustainable or inclusive. Next, the middle circle, your immediate team and manager. You have direct influence here. Suggest small practical changes in team meetings. Finally, the outer circle, the wider department or the entire company. You only have indirect influence here. To make a dent in this circle, you need allies data and a track record of success from your inner circles. Focus your energy on the inner 2 spheres first. Build credibility with small, tangible wins. That is how you earn the right to tackle the big stuff. This pragmatic approach is a learned adaptation. It keeps idealism from souring into cynicism, letting you channel your passion into changes that stick. Conclusion: the generational remix. So there you have it, Gen Zers. 5 invaluable lessons from your battle-tested millennial colleagues: the marathon mindset of career patience, the art of the professional code switch, the emotional armor to handle criticism, the strategy to turn digital connections into real capital, and the wisdom to be a pragmatic idealist. These aren't just tips. They are a survival guide forged in economic uncertainty and corporate reality, but this isn't a one-way street. The future of work isn't about one generation teaching another. It's about a generational remix. The most successful professionals will blend Gen Z's digital fluency and passion with millennial resilience and strategic patience. As you learn these lessons from them, you should be actively mentoring them in return on new AI tools, on emerging social platforms, on the cultural currents you understand intuitively. This creates a workplace where everyone is both a teacher and a student, fostering continuous multi-directional growth. Ready to upgrade yourself? Try applying just one of these lessons this week, and remember, every generation holds a piece of the map. The smart move is to use them all.